Hello, everybody. How are we doing? Oh, lots of people in the chat already. Hello, Zach. Hello, Lofi. Finclaw. Morrow. Hello, somebody. Good. Cool Cat. How's it going? W Cube or Wookube? Wookub. Mars Boy. How's it going? I'm a Max Ran assuming fan. Sarah's in the chat as well. Hello, hello. M6 These. Clara can do that one. How are we all doing? Are we set up for the Mexican Grand Prix, which is kind of billing itself to be a pretty decent one? The Mexican Grand Prix, it's one of the ones that I like because of the excitement around it. I don't necessarily believe it to be one of the better races of the season. But if yesterday's qualifying is anything to go by, we could have a little bit of a barnstormer on our hands here. A little bit of a fight between the two Ferraris. Maybe a Mercedes getting involved in there as well. I feel like this could definitely play into being quite an entertaining Grand Prix afternoon that we have in front of us. Let me just get a couple of bits loaded up in the background. And then we are ready and raring to go. How are we all feeling? When can we meet my girlfriend? I suppose that's kind of up to her, to be honest. She's just not really interested in... Well, she's never mentioned sort of being interested in getting involved in the channel, to be honest. I feel like it's not something she's ever mentioned. Maybe she'll pop in at some point in her life. You never know. She also doesn't really like Formula 1. Like, she likes it a little bit, but not a load. Remember me? I remember everyone. Don't you worry, Mars Boy. I do indeed remember you. You were here not 24 hours ago. Lofi in the chat. Sally in the chat. How are we all doing? Assad as well. Shall we quickly catch up on F1? That's what we're here for. And talk about the bits and pieces that have kind of gone down in the last 24 hours or so. And get ourselves also caught up with everything. Right, why is this not working? Get ourselves caught up with everything that has happened on the grid and also where people are starting, qualifying, etc., etc. Remember, of course, we do have Fernando Alonso's 400th Grand Prix ahead of us, so we will be kind of talking about Fernando Alonso a little bit throughout the stream as well, having a little look at the 400 Grand Prix and how they have gone. So hopefully we get to see a little bit of Fernando out on track, maybe a couple of overtakes from him. It's kind of taken away from him, wasn't it, yesterday in qualifying? Was maybe going to sneak into the top 10 in kind of classic Fernando Alonso fashion. He was going to be right in that mix for the top 10 with 4 slots available to those midfieldy teams, but didn't get it because Yuki Tsunoda ended up barreling into the barriers, and that kind of put a kibosh on a few different drivers' afternoons, really. What do I think about Carlos Slim, Checo's biggest sponsor, talking to Colapinto? I think it was something to kind of be expected, right? I think Sergio Perez has got away for quite a long time by just being the only South American-y driver on the grid. I know that Mexico isn't quite South America, but you know what I mean? It's that kind of middle America. And I think Sergio Perez has gotten away with, you know, being the only driver on the grid from that area of the world, and therefore just getting first choice on all of the sponsors that are available. And now, Franco Colapinto seems to be getting involved, you know. He might end up with a Formula 1 seat at some point soon. And therefore, those sponsorships that are currently with Sergio Perez will be looking at this new, fast, exciting driver that people are getting behind and fans are enjoying watching. And I can understand why they're thinking, do we want to be with Sergio Perez, an aging driver who's underperforming, or do we want to be with Franco Colapinto and kind of get behind him early And then if you get behind a driver early, you can kind of help yourself up the ladder. And as he maybe jumps up higher and higher on the grid, you're also still alongside him because you supported him in the early days. So he's not going to want to get rid of you as he goes towards the top end of the stream. Can I get a shout out, please? You can. Juven. Let's go for Juven. Yarven? Has it started yet? Not quite yet. About half an hour or so. 25 minutes from the beginning of the race. Just came back from drama competitions and jumped on the stream. Well, thank you, Trev. Appreciate that. I don't know what a drama competition is. Sounds eventful. What are the chances of a safety car? Minimal, I would say. Like, there haven't been many this year. Who you think is going to be on the podium? Should we get into it then? Shall we have a little look at the starting grid for the Grand Prix? Carlos Sainz. What a pole lap it was, by the way. Absolutely stunning lap from the Spanish driver. Obviously, it was a little bit... It was quite hard to watch. You know, he was celebratory, of course, because he picked up another pole position in Formula 1. But at the same time, he did seem a little bit gutted. I think he knows that we are now really in the final stretch of Carlos Sainz being a Ferrari driver. And I've said throughout the entire season, I can completely understand why Ferrari chose to keep Charles Leclerc over Carlos Sainz. And I can completely understand why Ferrari want to get in Lewis Hamilton in place of Carlos Sainz. But as it's drawing closer, and as you think about, you know, the effort that Carlos Sainz has gone to within that team, and the fact that he has been there at Ferrari through this resurgence. You know, he was there in 2022 when they looked like they were going to be the closest competitors to Red Bull throughout the season and maybe go close to a title battle. Didn't quite happen. He was there working with them throughout 2023, helping them through the issues that they had, and coming into 2024, being a lot more competitive. Carlos Sainz has been a big component in putting Ferrari in the position where they are now under this rule cycle. And actually, it's looking like next season, especially if you look at the second half of this year, and Ferrari being probably the best car out on track. I know you could argue that the McLaren is still maybe the quickest overall package, but the Ferrari, just since the summer break, and especially since those upgrades in Monza, has been super quick. It does feel like just as Ferrari are getting back towards the point where next year they might be able to put Charles Leclerc or now Lewis Hamilton into a position to win a championship, Carlos Sainz has got to take a huge step backwards. You know, he's got to go from right at the top end of the grid, as I said, a Ferrari team that looks set to put together a title fight, to a Williams team where he's going to be, at best, hoping for a points finish. You know, most of the time, if the Williams car finishes 8th, 9th, 10th, that's absolutely amazing for them. Carlos Sainz is pretty used to being under that pressure to get podiums consistently. So it was positive. It was great to see Carlos Sainz obviously pick up another pole position. It's just a shame that it does feel like this might be his final ever pole position if he doesn't pick up another one in the final 4 races of the season that we have, obviously, in Brazil, and then the 3 races a couple of weeks after that. And I did feel a little bit for Carlos Sainz. I felt like there was a lot of emotion behind the fact that he'd picked up that pole position, and that's only going to now be elevated if he does go on to win this Grand Prix, which I think is certainly possible. He probably should have been in the mix for victory in Austin. He was by far and away the best driver during the sprint race. A little bit of a shame that strategy just went against him, and the fact that Charles Leclerc got the jump at the start meant that he was able to reap the clean air in the Ferrari, whereas Carlos Sainz was more in the mix, and that put Carlos Sainz second behind his teammate. And then coming into this weekend, again, the Ferrari looks the better car. The Ferrari car looks the better car in the free practice sessions. even on the long run. And it looks like the long run pace of the Ferrari is going to still be the best of those top teams. So if Carlos Sainz can get down into turn one ahead, which is very, very tricky here in Mexico, if he can get down to turn one ahead, Carlos Sainz is looking absolutely spot on for a victory here in Mexico, because overtaking is so tricky. Yeah, as I say, just a real shame, I think, that Carlos Sainz, that Red Bull seat, that Mercedes seat, there was an opportunity for him maybe, and you don't know behind the scenes what kind of contractual talks he would have been in, whether that was a realistic opportunity for him. But having to settle for Williams, and I suppose, you're still settling for the best of a bad bunch. He still got his pick. He could have easily chosen Haas or could have easily chosen Stake Sauber, and I'm sure they would have absolutely taken Carlos Sainz in. But yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts and feelings on that. Will it be quite strange to see Carlos Sainz take a victory here and be celebrating in the way that he celebrated the pole, but also with that reminder of the fact that he's being ditched out of the team through no fault of his own, really? I don't think he's done anything wrong, and a shame that he won't be there. Max Verstappen, though, does start beside him, and Max Verstappen does love jumping into a lead going down into turn one, especially with this very long drag down towards turn one. Like the Mexican Grand Prix, the start line is quite far back in terms of where the drivers start, and it's a huge run down towards turn one. So the fact that when he does get down towards turn one, Carlos Sainz is going to have that slipstreamed Max Verstappen in his rearview mirrors, or possibly even alongside him before we even get down in towards turn one, knowing how good that Red Bull car is off the start line, it's going to be tough to keep that position, and Lando Norris behind him as well in third spot. Those three starting on the podium places. And I'm just loving how this 2024 season has evolved to the point where we've got a Ferrari, a Red Bull, and a McLaren all in the top three. And it's difficult to know which one really has the best opportunity of winning the Grand Prix. It's going to be super, super competitive between the three of them all the way through. Strategy is going to play a huge part. Obviously, who's in the lead going down towards turn one could easily change at a track like Mexico. And the fact that those three are going to be battling it out. And again, we don't 100% know who is definitely going to be the quickest car, is going to make for such an entertaining Grand Prix afternoon, I think. When it comes to Charles Leclerc, he'll also be hoping to, put himself in and amongst it. Managed to in Austin, was starting behind the rest and just snuck up the inside through the Austin Grand Prix through the Grand Prix start in Austin, and then just disappeared into the distance. So I wouldn't rule out Charles Leclerc being involved either. But George Russell, Lewis Hamilton start on the third row of the grid. It does feel like the Mercedes, once again, is the fourth fastest car. I feel like when it comes to those top three teams, Mercedes are just that little bit adrift. McLaren have kind of replaced them in the big three, I would say, at this point, which is a shame because the Mercedes car before the summer break felt like it was maybe better than the Ferrari, to be honest, and was more likely to be that team that jumps in. It's just on a knife edge right now. We've seen 3 huge crashes from the Mercedes team in 2 weekends. George Russell twice in the barriers. Lewis Hamilton in the gravel in Austin as well. It just feels like that car is very, very difficult to drive. Lewis Hamilton also complaining once again that he just doesn't seem to be able to get the better of his teammate. Whatever he does, he always seems the second best Mercedes when it comes to qualifying. Kevin Magnussen starts in 7th place, and it's normally been Nico Hülkenberg, the Haas, that has kind of caught the headlines throughout the season. But Kevin Magnussen deciding that he's going to end the season on a high, of course, leaving the Haas team at the end of the season, and no seat for him at the moment on the Formula One grid for the future. That Stake Sauber seat, the only one that is available, and Kevin Magnussen, one of the only drivers that hasn't been talked about going into that seat. So Kevin Magnussen wanting to end his Haas career with a positive. And that would be really nice, wouldn't it? Because he is synonymous with that Haas team. By far and away the best driver that Haas, or the most illustrious driver that Haas have got. Maybe not the best word, but he's scored the most points for the Haas team, picked up pole position for a Haas. It's like Kevin Magnussen has been the man whilst he's been there, and obviously had to dip out for a season, but then came back to rescue them from obscurity as well. And be nice to see if Kevin Magnussen can finish in that best of the rest slot. Pierre Gasly would be the closest driver behind him in 8th place in the Alpine, who's also kind of come to life at the end of the season. Of course, staying with Alpine next year, we'll have Jack Doohan alongside him, but wants to just show once again going into the final few races that he is the man for Alpine moving forwards, and doing similar to what he did last year, actually, where the final few races of the season for Pierre Gasly were his best of the season. And I think Gasly definitely looking like he's going to repeat that. Maybe he's just one of those drivers, a little bit like the opposite of Yuki Tsunoda. I feel like Yuki Tsunoda always starts the season really, really well and tails off towards the end of it. Pierre Gasly almost catches a second wind, and with sort of 7-8 races to go, just seems to click into gear once more. So Gasly starts in 8th place, but a really, really solid drive from Pierre Gasly yesterday in qualifying to get the Alpine car there. Alex Albon will start in 9th place behind him in the Williams. Again, big pressure on Alex Albon this weekend to prove that he is going to outdo Colapinto. A little bit of a slump in form for Alex Albon. At the same time, whilst Colapinto has come into the team and caught the eye of many. So Albon just proving again that he has been here, done it for a while, and is still a very, very good Formula One driver under the guise of Williams. Nico Hülkenberg starts in the final point scoring place. Again, not a name that is unsurprising to see in the top 10, even though he has finished in 11th place 7 times this season. Looking at the Drivers' Championship, he has now put himself clear of Lance Stroll into the top 10, 29 points on the board for Nico Hülkenberg, and should, outside of Fernando Alonso, of course, be that kind of master of the midfield, if you can call Fernando Alonso that. Fernando Alonso's in his own just class at this moment in time, so not really too much that Nico Hülkenberg can do to finish in 9th place. Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson, it was disappointing to not see the RB really go for it in terms of qualifying yesterday. Obviously, I think they both had a real opportunity at getting into the top 10 and through to Q3. This is one of the tracks that AlphaTauri RB have done better at in the past. You know, you think back to Daniel Ricciardo last season having his best race here. Yuki Tsunoda also had a really, really solid race until he hit Oscar Piastri. I think them starting in 11th and 12th place, they're still a big threat to the drivers in front of them. It's just a shame that Yuki Tsunoda did have that crash going down in towards turn 12 and cost himself and Liam Lawson a real shot. And yeah, it was Yuki Tsunoda's mistake that knocked out him and Liam Lawson in Q2. So it was kind of a double whammy for the RB team because of that mistake, which caused a red flag. Fernando Alonso also missed out on setting his final lap time. Again, didn't really get to know whether he was actually on pace to get through to Q3, because by the time the red flag came out, he hadn't done too much of the lap. But Fernando Alonso starts in 13th place for his 400th Grand Prix in Formula One. Puts him miles ahead of Kimi Räikkönen, who is the second most capped driver ever on 353. And you look at the fact that, you know, we've still got 4 more races this season. Fernando Alonso could easily be in the sport for another 3 years. Well, he's contracted to be in the sport for another 2 years at least. I could see him maybe getting another year in, maybe even another 2. And if he is able to do that, he would be up to the 500 Grand Prix mark. I know it is insane to think he has done 500 Grand Prix. And I know that, you know, the seasons are longer. We keep adding more and more tracks to the calendar, but still absolutely ridiculous that Fernando Alonso has managed this many races already and could be looking at 500 Grand Prix in his career if he sticks on for another few seasons. Lance Stroll is in 14th place beside him. Again, the 2 Aston Martins starting side by side. We'll see if they have a little to and fro between them. Valtteri Bottas managed to get through to Q2 yesterday. causing a little bit of an upset with a few of the drivers behind him. But Valtteri Bottas, very thankful. And again, one of Valtteri Bottas's best tracks of the year. So should maybe see the best of Valtteri Bottas. His best finish so far this season, 2 13th place finishes. I'd be very impressed if he gets above 13th place today, but you never know. Starting in 15th, a couple of drivers ahead of him have a mistake in them. And maybe we'll see Valtteri Bottas make some moves forwards. The reason I don't think so, though, is the drivers starting just behind him. The 5 drivers that dropped out in Q1 yesterday, just 3 of them would have been absolutely ridiculously annoyed because of that. Franco Colapinto starts in 16th place in his Williams car after putting in a stunning drive to pick up a point last time around in Austin. A very frustrating qualifying session for the young Argentine. But even more frustrated, Oscar Piastri starts in 17th place in the McLaren. A mistake during his first lap, a mistake during his second lap, and it was all done and dusted for Oscar Piastri yesterday in qualifying a lot earlier than we expected it to be. But Sergio Perez, the home crowd hero, starts in 18th spot. Now, he's got a lot of work to do if he's going to impress the crowd here in Mexico this weekend. They were expecting, Sergio being at least close to the podium places. He's been on the podium a couple of times here in Mexico with Red Bull, but not looking likely this time around for Sergio unless there is a dramatic twist to the tail this time around. Zhou Guanyu and Esteban Ocon start at the back of the pack in 19th and 20th place. That is our run through of the 20 drivers taking part in the 2024 Mexican Grand Prix. As I said before, Nico Hülkenberg putting himself in a good place in the driver standings. One to watch is Yuki Tsunoda, obviously. Whether or not he can jump Lance Stroll needs a couple of points to do so. Kevin Magnussen also looking to maybe get in front of Daniel Ricciardo if things roll his way today. It's then beyond that, there's not too many battles to play out. Obviously, George Russell will want to try and close the gap to Lewis Hamilton, but they're starting side by side. Oscar Piastri now looks quite far adrift of Charles Leclerc, and also starting so far back, Charles Leclerc looks like he's going to consolidate that 3rd place finish, maybe even put himself in a position where he could snag Lando Norris's 2nd place in the Drivers' Championship. And they're the kind of battles that are playing out. RB will be looking at Haas's point scoring places. RB were hoping that this weekend would be the weekend that they swing back in front of Haas after Haas jumped in front of them during the Austin Grand Prix weekend. But looking less likely now with Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg starting ahead of them in the points. So a lot to do for the 2 RB drivers if they are going to outscore Haas by 2 points in this one. Other battles to keep an eye on. Ferrari might end up taking Red Bull this weekend. In fact, should end up taking Red Bull this weekend, considering where Sergio Perez is starting in all of this. And hopefully one of the Ferraris, I say hopefully, I want a McLaren to win, but I think Ferrari winning, I'd like to see Carlos Sainz pick up a victory in his final stint as a Ferrari driver. Williams and Alpine, maybe a battle that might come to fruition because Gasly is running in the points. Albon just behind him though, so it looks like that 4-point swing, unlikely for Alpine, but maybe they can close the gap just a touch. We are about 5 minutes away from the beginning of the Grand Prix itself. And here in Mexico, we're getting set up for round 20. Of course, if you haven't hit that like button, that would be massively appreciated. Every single like does absolutely help out the stream. We usually try and aim for around 500 likes on these ones. We haven't quite got that many people in the chat at the moment, but if you all hit the like button, we can get over 300 likes already. And that just means that the stream gets seen and promoted, and more people are likely to join us as we head into the Mexican Grand Prix itself, which would be absolutely amazing. Also, if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, trying to get to 110,000 subscribers. On top of that, just a preview, we will be back after the Grand Prix. I'm talking to CF Racing after the Mexican Grand Prix weekend. Wanted to get him on because I want to talk everything Ferrari. Big Charles Leclerc fan, big Ferrari fan, and has a lot of optimism going into 2025. So I will be asking for your questions for CF Racing beyond the end of the Grand Prix once it is done and dusted. That'll come out as soon as possible after the Grand Prix finishes, once I've interviewed him. And then, of course, if you want to get involved in the mailbag as well, you can send in your individualized questions to CF Racing by clicking the link on the community tab to send in whatever questions you've got for the Canadian Ferrari fan himself. And the mailbag will come out a couple of days later, usually Tuesday or Wednesday, when I can get it done. That is available on Patreon for just £3 per month. You get an additional mailbag episode and exclusive access to the Discord. So many more extra little perks coming to the Patreon, so keep an eye on that. You can sign up for completely for free as well, I should say. So you can get a little taster of the Patreon by hitting the link in the description. You can sign up completely and utterly for free. Couple of minutes away now. Hit the like now. New layout to the Mexican Grand Prix. No. Same as normal. To the stream. Also no. So not sure what you're saying. Race starting within 3 minutes. It is indeed. Let me just double check. I've got a couple of bits and pieces loaded up in the background, ready and raring to go. The radio messages are actually starting to come in from the drivers. I'll show you those as we go into it. And can see everybody getting lined up on the grid. 5 minutes to go was the warning to Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu. Also Franco Colapinto. Now only 3 minutes to run. And 4 minutes if you're Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas. It's funny that the Stake Sauber team do love a little countdown to the start of the Grand Prix itself. It's always them. Zhou Guanyu in particular just loves being told every single minute that he's got before the Grand Prix starts. Also, just quickly get a couple of things loaded up just in case we need our race trace or some sector timings. And of course, the championship battles that we just touched upon. We will give live updates to them as the race plays out. Also, what's the like goal for today? I can't remember how many likes we got in Austin. Which is poor from me, isn't it? Should remember. Shall I have a little look? Have a gander very swiftly. New channel. Live streams. In Austin, we managed 650 likes we managed in Austin. So if you want to beat the Austin Grand Prix and put Mexico above them in the leaderboard, 650. Or if you want to go for the full leaderboard, the 100,000 subscriber special in Singapore, my favorite track, managed 1,100 likes. So 650 to beat Austin, over 1,000 to be in and amongst the only streams to ever hit 1,000. I think that was the one stream to ever hit over 1,000. We've got some 900s in there. Can all the drivers listen to other radio messages? No, not really. Well, they could, technically, but it's just the teams that listen into the other radio messages of the drivers, and then they relay any information the driver needs. So you don't really want, like Lewis Hamilton on the radio trying to, I can't hear what Yuki Tsunoda's saying. So instead, the team just sort of updates them on whatever they need to know. They can't, there's that idea of proximity chat, isn't there? If you're alongside a driver, you can chat to them on the radio, but I don't know if that would really add too much to the drama. Good luck to Alonso. At usual, excellent start to have a good race. I think the Aston Martin not looking, one of the best midfield cars this time around. I thought the RB would have that advantage just going off the history. But maybe Fernando Alonso, as you say, it's a long run down towards turn one. He's usually pretty good off the line, is the Spaniard. We are now getting set up. Carlos Sainz there in the Ferrari car at the front of the queue. Special Mexican helmet for Carlos Sainz as well. You can see cars dropping onto the track now. Tyre blankets being removed by the teams, and we are about to get underway for the formation lap. Hang on, hang on. Oh, so incredibly impatient. Carlos Sainz won't be able to protect P1 into first corner. It's gonna be hard. Unfortunately, it is one of the hardest turn ones to defend here in Mexico. Just because, as you can see, it's such a huge run down towards turn one. Like, you look at where the drivers are situated, and turn one right at the top right of that graphic, starting basically in the bottom left. Like, it is a very, very long run down towards turn one, but the drivers are making their way down there for the first time now. 71 laps to be completed here in Mexico. And Carlos Sainz is going to start at the front of them for this formation lap at least. Sainz starts ahead of Verstappen, Lando Norris in third, Charles Leclerc will start fourth, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton side by side in their Mercedes on the third row of the grid in fifth and sixth. Kevin Magnussen starts seventh, best of the rest in the midfield. Pierre Gasly starts beside him in eighth, Alex Albon ninth, Nico Hülkenberg in the final point-scoring place as it stands. Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson just outside of that in the RB cars in 11th and 12th place. Then the two Aston Martins side by side in 13th and 14th as well. Valtteri Bottas starts in 15th, Colapinto 16th. Oscar Piastri and Sergio Perez both starting towards the back of the pack, 17th and 18th, but going for opposite strategies. Oscar Piastri deciding to stay on the medium compound tyre as the rest of the front runners. Sergio Perez switching it up and starting on the hard compound tyre. Zhou Guanyu in 19th place also starts on the hard compound tyre, with Esteban Ocon being the final driver on the grid. Once Esteban Ocon makes his way all the way around, we'll get to start the first lap. Carlos Sainz, though, just coming through the baseball stadium section and around turn 16, 17. You can see, though, Zhou Guanyu and Esteban Ocon only just making their way up towards turn 6. So a little while to go yet, but the drivers just getting a little bit of temperature into those tyres where possible. And I think Zhou Guanyu and Esteban Ocon might get a little bit of a hurry up here. They are quite far adrift, even of Sergio Perez, who is starting in 18th spot. 400th Grand Prix for Fernando Alonso. Lovely little decal for Fernando Alonso inside the stadium. Love to see that. Beautiful. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Massively appreciate that. Carlos Sainz has just taken his position. Charles Leclerc comes to a stop as well. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton lining up. Lewis Hamilton has stopped on the grid. So we are getting ever closer. Charles Leclerc can easily be P2 at corner 1. He could easily be in the lead, if anything, if Austin is anything to go by. Just watching the final few drivers making their way around the final corner. There is Zhou Guanyu. And once Zhou Guanyu comes to a stop, we can get going in this one. Yes, sorry, Ocon starting from the pit lane. Did forget to mention that. Look again. Here we are then. Green flag is waved. The red lights come on. And we're going to be running down towards turn 1. Here we go. It's lights out. Carlos Sainz comes across to try and cover Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen gets away incredibly well, though. And Lando Norris now in the slipstream of both cars and trying to get involved. Charles Leclerc trying to come around the outside of his teammate. It's Max Verstappen up the inside of turn 1. Oh, and there's a huge collision. I think it's an RB in the background has sent away. Carlos Sainz has skipped turn 2 and has had to go all the way across the grass. Carlos Sainz still remaining in the lead. That'll be looked into, though, as Max Verstappen now goes for the move on Carlos Sainz. And Max Verstappen's going to retake the lead of this Grand Prix. Max Verstappen up towards turn 3, gets the jump on his old teammate Carlos Sainz and moves up into the lead. Carlos Sainz down to second, Lando Norris third, Charles Leclerc fourth, Hamilton and Russell stay where they were. Hülkenberg, an amazing start from him, jumps up into 8th place behind his teammate. It was Yuki Tsunoda who had contact down towards the first corner, and the safety car is called. I think it was Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon combined. Alex Albon still limping around, I think, at the back of the pack. Yuki Tsunoda is okay, though. A big shunt for Yuki Tsunoda's RB car sent him barreling down towards the barriers at turn 1. See a replay of it. I was watching Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc trying to get up alongside the leading drivers, and Alex Albon has finally come to a stop then. And looks like there is damage to the rear end, of that Williams car, which means Alex Albon is also now out of the race. Let's have a little look once more. So Yuki Tsunoda does get on the grass a couple of times. I think the Williams car tries to peel across. Yuki Tsunoda not really anywhere to go. And there's contact between Albon and Tsunoda. Tsunoda coming off the worst of the two. Big shunt for Tsunoda. Hits the left-hand side wall. And the safety car was a very good idea. Lots of debris down towards turn 1. Yuki Tsunoda's car also needs to be removed from the racetrack. I think Alex Albon managed to pull across to a slip road, and they managed to get the Williams car out of the way fairly swiftly. But it was Nico Hülkenberg, the big winner in all of that in the midfield madness. Hülkenberg up into 8th place, ahead of Gasly now. Gasly has also dropped down to 9th. Liam Lawson up into the point-scoring places. Sort of took the benefit of Alex Albon and Yuki Tsunoda moving out of his way. Lance Stroll got the jump on Fernando Alonso. Alonso drops down into 12th. Sergio Perez up into 13th. Colapinto 14th. Bottas remains exactly where he started in 15th place. Zhou Guanyu also got the jump on a few drivers. Ocon obviously starting from the pit lane, now at the back of the pack. And Oscar Piastri had to get out of the craziness and remains 17th. As I say, Alex Albon and Yuki Tsunoda out of this one. And now, oh no, Alex Albon's car having to be picked up by some kind of recovery vehicle there. Alex Albon started in the points and out once again. And the pressure on him continues to mount with Colapinto still in the race and running 14th. Colapinto picks up points again. Could get very, very tasty. George Russell almost got alongside Charles Leclerc, actually, and then the Ferrari just disappeared away from him. Hamilton then got the jump on his teammate up into 5th. And Yuki Tsunoda is right on the outside of the track. I think Carlos Sainz actually then gives that position back to Max Verstappen, because Carlos Sainz has to run across the grass to maintain his race rather than being spun off into the barriers like Yuki Tsunoda was. Here's the onboard from Yuki Tsunoda then. Good start from Tsunoda, gets up alongside Hülkenberg. He can see Albon in front of him as well. Ducks to the inside of Alex Albon. Nowhere to go. Grass on the left-hand side of him. As he brakes, I think Alex Albon clips the rear right tyre of Yuki Tsunoda's car. That sends Yuki Tsunoda into the wall and also caused enough damage to the Williams car where he's now out of this race. And it was. I think Albon was just coming across. There was nowhere for Yuki Tsunoda to go, really. But I don't think Tsunoda did anything wrong. I think Tsunoda didn't really have anywhere to go. There's a little bit of like astroturfy grass on the left-hand side of the track there. And yeah, I think Albon also gets squeezed by Pierre Gasly. And it's, the front left tyre actually of Alex Albon's car completely dislodged. You can see him turning the wheel, but the tyre is done and dusted. And the Williams team deciding to call quits to Alex Albon's race. Just gets very, very tight between Gasly, Albon, and Tsunoda. All three of them, 3 abreast going into turn 1, was never going to end happily for all of them. And yeah, Gasly can find himself lucky there. He was the one that kind of escaped from the trio as Albon and Tsunoda disappeared into the barriers and out of the race. Checo false start. Oh, has that come up? Let's have a look at the investigations board. Yeah, Sergio Perez being investigated. Ooh, dear. Perez being investigated indeed for a false start. Did he jump the lights? Incident involving car Sergio Perez noted. False start. Investigation involving Sergio Perez under investigation. Oh, sorry, I've closed it. Close it for you guys as I read it. There you go. Sergio Perez involved. Noted false start. Ouch. Not what he would have wanted at his home Grand Prix. Let's have a little look at Sergio Perez's start then. Revs getting up there. 5 red lights. You can see him. Oh, it's going to be marginal. But usually these things are pretty hard and fast penalty if you've done it for Sergio Perez. It doesn't look like he's jumped the start massively. It's not like he's flying away and the other cars are still stationary for a very long time. But if, it's usually done with a tracker inside of the car. So if it's come up, it's likely that it is going to be a penalty for Sergio Perez. Safety car is still out. We're on lap 4 of the Mexican Grand Prix. Alex Albon and Yuki Tsunoda's cars just being moved off of the racetrack. Tsunoda's car down at turn 1. Alex Albon's car sort of midway between turn 3 and turn 4. And, Sergio Perez now being told that he is under investigation for that false start. Sergio Perez saying, no, it's just a good start from me. But those reaction times from Sergio Perez might have just been even a little bit too good. But that'll be investigated. Usually, as I say, hard and fast penalty if it's being investigated like that, because it is an onboard computer that usually tracks those kind of things. But we'll have to wait and see. Still, the safety car is out. They're just coming around the final corner now, and the safety car is going to do at least another lap. After not seeing the safety car for a good few weekends in a row, couple of races now where we've had safety car incidents at the beginning, towards the beginning. It's allowed those drivers just to look after those tyres that little bit better. Has this now changed the strategy for some of those cars towards the front? Max Verstappen leading in the Red Bull. Carlos Sainz has dropped a position to his old Toro Rosso teammate. Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc remain third. The 2 Mercedes cars have swapped places. They're now 5th Lewis Hamilton, 6th George Russell. And now Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg also side by side. Magnussen managing to hold on to 7th place. Hülkenberg jumping up into 8th from 10th. Gasly dropping a position. Liam Lawson joining them in the point scoring places after Albon and Tsunoda opened the door for him to jump through it. Also interesting that Liam Lawson now the only driver in the top 10. Oh. Oh, Charles Leclerc's drink is spilling into his mouth, possibly. But I thought that was like engine oil or something spilling, but it's Charles Leclerc's drink tube that is inside of his helmet. Seems to be like dribbling down his chin and forcing him to drink even when he doesn't want to, as he's zigzagging along the track. But yeah, Liam Lawson, the only driver in the top 10 now who is on the hard compound tyre. So Liam Lawson might try and do what he did in Austin and go super, super long once again, especially with the aid of a safety car here. Try and go super long. Obviously, beat out some of those midfield drivers. Could easily see a Liam Lawson 7th place finish here if it does roll into his way. Oh, and there is the confirmation of the penalty for Sergio Perez. It is going to be a 5-second penalty for the Mexican driver, and it is a 5-second penalty for the false start. As I said, those things are usually pretty cut and dry. There's a computer inside of the car. It keeps track of when the lights go out. It keeps track of when the car starts moving. And if that comes up on the steward's board, it's usually a pretty quick 5-second penalty. And Max Verstappen then still leading. lap 6 behind the safety car now. Getting a little bit silly. Come on, lads. Alex Albon's car has now been moved. Yuki Tsunoda's, I think, also. The Tech Pro barrier does have to be put back together again. And the safety car is finally ending. So safety car will be in at the end of this lap, and we'll go racing once again from lap 7 of the Grand Prix. Still 65 laps of racing yet to come. Hit that like button if you're new. Hit that subscribe. No, hit the like button if you're enjoying it. Hit the subscribe button if you are new to the channel. Massively helps us out. Trying to get to 650 likes, which was the amount that the Austin Grand Prix hit last time out. Safety car is indeed in this lap, though, to confirm. Sergio Perez on the radio is now being told. He was forward of the grid box. Forward of the grid box. So it wasn't actually the start. It didn't look like a, ridiculous false start from Sergio Perez, but maybe his tires not actually sitting inside the grid box correctly. Seems like he was too far forward in his grid box. So that was where the false start came from. Max Verstappen now backs the pack up. Max Verstappen's going to be under a lot of pressure going down towards turn 1. Same thing as we said for Carlos Sainz going down towards turn 1. You don't really want to be at the front of the pack because it's so difficult with the slipstream. Now, from this jump start, can Max Verstappen get far enough ahead of Carlos Sainz to remain in the lead down towards turn 1? Here they come then on lap 7 of the Mexican Grand Prix. We're back underway, racing once more. Max Verstappen leads Carlos Sainz down towards turn 1. Lando Norris running in the final podium position. Charles Leclerc has a little look at Lando Norris, but nothing doing this time around. The 2 Mercedes, followed by the 2 Hasses. Gasly and Lawson inside the points. Stroll, Alonso, Perez, Colapinto, Bottas, Joe, Piastri and Ocon all make their way through turn 1 single file. And Carlos Sainz waiting to pounce. The DRS, of course, will be enabled next lap as long as everything is all safe and sound out on track. He was quite far forward, was he, Antonio? There you go. There's the hard. I haven't seen the perspective of it from above. Unfortunately, I wasn't looking at Sergio Perez when we've seen those images. I will take your word for it. And I mean, again, it's a very easy penalty, isn't it? If you're too far forward in your grid box, you can see your tyres in front of the white line rather than behind it. And that is a pretty easy penalty for the stewards to give out. Less controversial than some of the ones that were given out in Austin. Max Verstappen then starts lap 8 of this Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz right behind him. DRS, the actual length of the DRS zone has been decreased this year here in Mexico. Lando Norris also still within touching distance. Charles Leclerc in 4th spot. The 2 Mercedes cars, Lewis Hamilton just falling a second adrift of his soon-to-be teammate Charles Leclerc. George Russell, though, staying within DRS range. Magnussen, Hulkenberg too. Gasly is there. Lawson there. So the only over 1 second gap is between Leclerc and Hamilton. And DRS is now finally enabled. So DRS enabled after 1 full lap of racing. Five-second penalty for Sergio Perez. I'm also just trying to see where Oscar Piastri is in all of this. Piastri still running in 17th place. Didn't manage to get the jump on Joe or Bottas at the restart. And maybe just needs either one of those 2 Stake Sauber cars to drop outside of the DRS range of the cars in front before he can really start to sieve his way through the back markers. Sergio Perez is going to fall backwards during the pit stops. He's got a 5-second penalty to now have to deal with. Carlos Sainz, though, DRS wide open, down towards turn 1. He's closing in on Max Verstappen. He moves to the inside. Carlos Sainz trying to retake the lead of this Grand Prix, and does. Carlos Sainz up towards turn 1, bounces over turn 2, but by the time he's through turn 3, he leads the race. Now down towards turn 4, they're going to be side by side. Carlos Sainz is still going to have the benefit of DRS to escape from Max Verstappen, and he does. The Ferrari back up into the top spot and back again, leading this Grand Prix. It really is going to be to and fro between these two over the course of the Grand Prix. You'd imagine that Max Verstappen now thinking of how he can mount a challenge back to Carlos Sainz and remain inside that DRS range. Lando Norris also DRS down towards turn 1 as well behind Max Verstappen. But here it was again from Carlos Sainz. A lunge up the inside. Gets just about to the apex of turn 1. Bobbles through turn 2. But turn 3 gets there ahead of Max Verstappen. Uses the DRS to escape away from Verstappen. And leads the Grand Prix once more. Max Verstappen's lead short-lived post-safety car. Carlos Sainz also with the fastest lap of the race so far. We come back around to turn 1. Verstappen on the radio. And Max Verstappen has an empty battery. He is not happy with the mode settings inside of that Red Bull car. And Lando Norris now trying to take advantage of that. Lando Norris has a little look at the inside of Max Verstappen. Verstappen, though, with DRS to Carlos Sainz. And we're looking at these three cars being very tightly packed together through the first sector. It is still Carlos Sainz ahead of Verstappen. Lando Norris, though, looking up the inside of Verstappen down towards turn 4. They go side by side. It's going to be very close, and they touch. And they touch, and Lando Norris is sent over the grass. Lando Norris has to give the position back to Carlos Sainz. Lando Norris now still ahead of Verstappen after the two collided. Those two just cannot leave each other alone at the moment. Lando Norris moving away from Max Verstappen. Verstappen goes up the inside again, and they nearly touch. It is absolute chaos between the two. And Lando Norris and Max Verstappen just have a wish to get each other out of this Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc taking advantage of the fact that both of them are squabbling, and Charles Leclerc jumps up into second place in the Ferrari. Lando Norris on the radio, incensed at Max Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton now all over the back of Lando Norris's McLaren car. Goodness me, it got close there. Ferrari absolutely looking at this with beaming smiles. Charles Leclerc is now 2 seconds adrift of Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz, because of the squabbling between the two behind, looking like he is in the perfect position. Lewis Hamilton even now having a look at Lando Norris in 4th spot. George Russell with DRS too. Kevin Magnussen is holding on to the back of the front runners, by the way. Kevin Magnussen deciding, no, I'm going to be in a top 4 team this time around. Nico Hülkenberg has drifted a second and a half away from his teammate. Gasly and Lawson still inside of the points. Here's a replay of that incident. Lando Norris down towards turn 4, goes around the outside. Max Verstappen does hit the apex, but pushes Lando Norris wide. There's definitely contact between the two championship rivals. Lando Norris then lets Carlos Sainz back through. Max Verstappen decides to make a lunge down towards turn 7. And again, they go side by side. This time, Max Verstappen doesn't stay on the track. Does go off. I think there's contact between them again. And Charles Leclerc decides, you know what? If you two are going to disappear off the racetrack, I'm going to take second place from you. And it's another Ferrari 1-2 at the front of the Grand Prix. Back-to-back 1-2 finishes for Ferrari at this moment in time is looking likely. Lando Norris on the racetrack. He overtook off the track and pushed me off. He is incensed on the radio. That turn 8 incident involving Lando Norris and Max Verstappen has been noted by the stewards, but it is heating up here in Mexico, and it's getting very spicy indeed. Lewis Hamilton still having a look at Lando Norris's car, getting outside of the slipstream of the McLaren, maybe just trying to cool down his Mercedes car a touch. And George Russell still running in 6th place, Magnussen holding on. And Nico Hülkenberg, the first driver outside of DRS range beyond that. Gasly still has DRS. Liam Lawson on the hard compound tyre. Maybe just holding onto his tyres a little bit. Sergio Perez putting Lance Stroll under pressure. And Sergio Perez has the position ahead of Lance Stroll now. Sergio Perez up into 11th. And the point scoring places ahead of him with that 5-second penalty, though, still to come. Fernando Alonso 13th in this one in his 400th Grand Prix. Colapinto has stayed in 14th spot. Oscar Piastri, by the way, has only managed to get in front of Zhou Guanyu in all of this. Oscar Piastri still struggling at the back and having to wait until the cars are outside of DRS to make a real challenge of it. Lando Norris has dropped outside of DRS range of Verstappen. Charles Leclerc has just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix and is gaining on his teammate. 1.1 seconds now the gap. Charles Leclerc was 0.3 of a second quicker than Carlos Sainz last time around. Goodness me, that safety car at the beginning just squeezing up the pack, giving those cars a little bit of extra time to get that temperature into their tyres. And everybody came out swinging after the safety car restart. Alex Albon and Yuki Tsunoda coming together at the beginning of the race. Both of those cars now out of the Grand Prix. There goes Oscar Piastri on Valtteri Bottas, and Oscar Piastri up into 15th place in the McLaren. Playing again that replay of Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Lando Norris forced across the grass at turn 5. And then again, they come together at turn 7, and it's getting very, very feisty between the two of them. Have to wait and see if Lando Norris or Max Verstappen is given a penalty. Thing is, Max Verstappen doesn't get anywhere near the racetrack down towards turn 7. Forces Lando Norris very, very wide indeed. I think that is a penalty. I know, again, I'm going to be called biased. Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, etc., etc. And there is the confirmation. Max Verstappen given a penalty. It's a 10-second penalty for Max Verstappen for going off of the racetrack, forcing another driver off the racetrack. Max Verstappen, a 10-second penalty. Wow, that is a huge penalty for the current World Championship leader. Lewis Hamilton has fallen adrift of Lando Norris, now 2.2 seconds the gap. And George Russell has a little look at his teammate. Not good enough this time around. Down towards turn 4 they go. Will he get up the inside of turn 5? Has a little think about it, does George Russell. But we're about to see a little battle unfurl between the two Mercedes cars as well. 10 seconds indeed for Max Verstappen. A huge penalty. And he is now told over the radio. Max Verstappen is pretty impressed by the sounds of things with that 10-second penalty. That is going to be a big turning point in this race. 10 seconds currently falls into clutches of Liam Lawson. Max Verstappen would fall all the way down to 9th place with a 10-second penalty as the gaps stand. Of course, you'd imagine they're going to elongate as the race continues. Here comes George Russell on Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton moves to the inside of the track then. They almost collide. George Russell then has to peel to the left-hand side of the track. Doesn't get anywhere near the apex at turn 1, but into turn 2, gets the jump on his teammate, and Lewis Hamilton back down into 6th place. Very aggressive defensive positioning from Lewis Hamilton, though, and George Russell took some evasive maneuvers, just about got it around turn 1, and then was into turn 2 ahead of his teammate. The onboard from George Russell's gaining on Hamilton. See the rear wing of Hamilton come into view. Hamilton then peels off to the right-hand side, and George Russell has to swiftly move to the left. I thought they touched. They were so close to one another. The front wing of George Russell's car millimeters away from Lewis Hamilton's rear left tyre. And Hamilton now under pressure from Magnussen. And Carlos Sainz on the radio not very happy at his teammate Charles Leclerc. Keep it clean. You have good pace. Keep it clean. And maybe being given the go-ahead, Charles Leclerc here to battle with his teammate. And Carlos Sainz not very happy about it. Wanting to play the team game, of course. When you're the driver in front, you always want to play the team game. When you're the driver behind, you're not so incentivized to do so. Here comes Kevin Magnussen on Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton, though, with DRS to his teammate, luckily, means that Kevin Magnussen can't make the move. Lewis Hamilton seems all over the place at the minute. And that Mercedes car not looking great at all. Here comes Fernando Alonso. And no, not to retire the car. Fernando Alonso retires the car from his 400th Grand Prix start. That is a real shame for Fernando Alonso. 400 Grand Prix weekends for Fernando Alonso, and he has to retire the car on lap 15 of the Grand Prix. That is not very... that is so disappointing, isn't it, for Fernando Alonso fans? And maybe, just maybe, Fernando Alonso will fight for a win in the next 100 Grand Prix starts. Charles Leclerc. Ooh. Expecting him to be side by side with Carlos Sainz, because Charles Leclerc just being told to keep it clean. So Ferrari expecting Charles Leclerc to close that now 1.7 second gap to his teammate. Still does have the fastest lap of the race to Charles Leclerc, but we are now 16 laps into it. And those tyres starting to degrade. Obviously, they will last a little bit longer because of the safety car that we had. Can keep the car a little bit slower, a little bit better on those tyres. Lewis Hamilton now outside of DRS range of George Russell, but we're on board with Sergio Perez as he tries to move into the point-scoring places. Both of the Red Bull cars with penalties, by the way. 5-second penalty for Sergio Perez, a 10-second penalty for Max Verstappen, and Liam Lawson not letting the Red Bull through. And here we go then. Is this another opportunity for Liam Lawson to make an impression on the Red Bull higher-ups? Has done so well so far in his Red Bull career. That short stint in 2023 meant that they had to get him in 2024. They've ditched Daniel Ricciardo for the young driver, and now he's putting a real battle in with Sergio Perez. Goodness gracious. Liam Lawson versus Sergio Perez. Perez, though, within touching distance. DRS for Perez, no DRS for Lawson. Down towards turn 1. Surely this is going to be the opportunity for Sergio Perez. He had a little look down towards turn 4 last lap, but is a lot closer to the RB car this time around down towards turn 1. DRS comes open for Sergio Perez. He's not absolutely underneath the rear wing of Liam Lawson. I think Liam Lawson's going to have enough to keep Sergio Perez at bay, and he does. I was expecting Sergio Perez to be a lot closer to the RB down towards turn 1. But is not ahead. The crowd forcing Sergio Perez ahead of Liam Lawson. But Liam Lawson not wanting to give up that position at all. Liam Lawson positions the car on the inside. Is it going to come to clutch? Oh, it's very close through turn 5. And now Liam Lawson comes up the inside. There's definitely contact between the two Red Bull drivers. And Liam Lawson not giving up that position. I'm not sure that that is how to impress the Red Bull higher-ups by taking a little bit of carbon fibre off their main car. But Liam Lawson was absolutely not giving way to Sergio Perez in the main Red Bull team. And Liam Lawson holds on to 10th place. It was so tight between the two of them. Down towards turn 4, Sergio Perez lunges up the inside. I thought it was done and dusted. I thought Liam Lawson was going to have to back out of it going into turn 5, but he kept his foot in it, went very slow down turn 5, both of them, and there is a touch between the two. Sergio Perez on the radio, and he is not happy at all with Liam Lawson in all of that. And now Lance Stroll is within DRS range of Sergio Perez. Perez has dropped to nearly 3 seconds behind Lawson. And here comes the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll, the only Aston Martin left in the race after Fernando Alonso had to retire. Is he going to go around the outside? Not this time around, but Lance Stroll's going to have another go down towards turn 4. It's getting very tasty here in Mexico. Sergio Perez now under pressure. The hometown hero could be losing 11th place. Of course, has that 5-second penalty hanging over his head. Lance Stroll tries to go around the outside. He's pushed off the racetrack and across the grass. Bunches across it. Oh my goodness me. Sergio Perez just about holds on to 11th place. Lance Stroll side by side with Perez through turn 5, even though he was across the grass. Goodness me. Carlos Sainz now leading this race by 2.5 seconds. Verstappen 3 seconds adrift. Here comes Oscar Piastri trying to battle with Colapinto, but Colapinto also not letting Oscar Piastri pass easily. Here comes a penalty for Max Verstappen. Is it another penalty for Verstappen, or was that just a trigger on the... It's another penalty for Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen, a 10-second penalty for forcing another driver off the track. A 10-second penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. It's another 10-second penalty for Verstappen. Goodness gracious me. And now, oh my God, Sergio Perez is under investigation for an incident involving Liam Lawson. Oh my God, it's falling apart for Red Bull here at Mexico. One of their favorite circuits, of course, Sergio Perez's home Grand Prix. And both of the Red Bull drivers getting penalty after penalty. A 20-second penalty, effectively, for Max Verstappen. That, again, drops him all the way back to 11th place behind Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson could very well be the highest-scoring Red Bull driver here this weekend. Goodness me. And it's very close. Where's the apex there? The Sergio Perez-Liam Lawson incident still under investigation. Oh my goodness me. It is all falling apart for the Red Bull team here. And Liam Lawson not happy about it at all. Oh. And is that from the... Oh, it's from the side pod. It's from the side pod of Sergio Perez. The floor... So the right-hand side of his floor and side pod are now damaged. And that's what's let Lance Stroll have a go at Sergio Perez. And Lance Stroll goes for it again. And this time gets around. Turn 4 incident involving Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll is under investigation. Sergio Perez could have 3 penalties by the time this comes around. Goodness gracious me. Sergio Perez has come into the pits. Perez has come into the pits. Is Perez going to retire the car? No, he's stopped. It's an 8.1 second stop from Sergio Perez. Possibly a new front wing going onto that car. Colapinto and Piastri now side by side. Both of them with DRS down towards turn 4. There is battles here, there, and everywhere. And Piastri finally gets himself ahead of Colapinto's Williams. Or does he? Colapinto tries to come back at him. No, Piastri does keep that position. Piastri up into 12th place. Sergio Perez, though, with a big hole in the side pod, continues the race from 17th. Had that 5-second penalty, of course, Sergio Perez. And now maybe just putting Sergio Perez at the back of the pack into some clean air on the medium compound tyre. But all the way at the back of the pack now, Alonso, Albon and Tsunoda out of the race. Goodness me. Yeah, that's what I mean. Verstappen is outside of the point-scoring places with a 20-second penalty as it stands. Oh, no, he'd be in 10th place. Sorry, he'd be in 10th place behind Liam Lawson as it stands with a 20-second penalty that he's got. Oh. George Russell on the radio being told that 20-second penalty. All he can say is, wow. George Russell. Goodness me. The stewards have definitely got it out for the Red Bull team this afternoon. Handing out penalty after penalty. Have a little look at those investigations. Incident involving... So, the incident with Liam Lawson and Sergio Perez still under investigation. And the incident with Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll still under investigation. But 2 10-second penalties for Verstappen confirmed. And, of course, that 5-second penalty for the false start from Sergio Perez as well. He has just served that 5-second penalty though as Sergio Perez. So more to come, but has at least served the first one. Verstappen with a 20-second penalty, the next Red Bull driver. Goodness gracious. Verstappen just being told about that other 10-second penalty that he has now been given. Goodness gracious me, it is getting ridiculous here in Mexico. If you haven't liked the stream, I don't know what more you're waiting for. This is an absolute barn burner of a Grand Prix. And hit that subscribe button as well. We are live for every single competitive session, and you don't want to miss one when they're as good as these. We've got 4 more races left in 2024. and I'm expecting 4 more races exactly like this. Carlos Sainz leads the Grand Prix for Ferrari. Charles Leclerc 4 seconds adrift now, so that take it easy maybe was just a hold back a little bit from Charles Leclerc. 3.8 seconds the gap to his teammate. Verstappen now 5 seconds adrift of the 2 Ferraris. Lando Norris trying to get up into the podium places. I mean, he's just got to wait for Max Verstappen to pit, honestly. Going to get that 20-second penalty, which is going to drop him a fair distance away from Lando Norris. Lando Norris just the 1.2 seconds behind Verstappen. George Russell, though, 7 seconds adrift of Norris. He is, though, ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton, who has dropped into 6th place and is 2.5 seconds off the pace of his teammate. Kevin Magnussen is in 7th. Nico Hulkenberg, 8th. Pierre Gasly in 9th place. Liam Lawson in 10th. And holding on to that 10th place position, obviously ahead of Sergio Perez. And has sent Sergio Perez to the underworld. Sergio Perez all the way down in 17th place now. Lance Stroll, the closest to the point scoring places, in 11th. Still a couple of stewards' decisions to come in for Sergio Perez, Lance Stroll, and Liam Lawson as we stand on lap 24 of the Grand Prix, which is just about to become lap 25. Goodness gracious. Thank you, Lofi, for becoming a member of the channel. Thank you, mate. It's got to be a few months going now. What is that? 3 months? 3 months? 3 months for Lofi. If you do want to get access to extra bonus content on the channel, make sure you become a member or join the Patreon down in the description below. Lots and lots of member and Patreon exclusive content coming to the channel, and it massively does help out. This is not my full-time job, as many people seem to think it is a lot of the time. But could be with your assistance, and all of your help massively helps out, allows us to get access to things like this, and allows us to enjoy the Grand Prix together. And enjoying this Grand Prix I am. Max Verstappen now within touching distance. Lando Norris has turned on the afterburners. He was 0.4 of a second quicker than Max Verstappen last time around. Verstappen is now going to be under pressure from Lando Norris once more. We saw what happened last time these two went into a corner side by side. Now it could happen all over again. Goodness gracious me. Lando Norris is even going to go for a move on Max Verstappen at this point. Taking your life into your own hands, Lando. Verstappen on the radio. And Verstappen not very happy about his tyres. It's getting bad, says the championship leader. And it's going to be a tough old afternoon for Max Verstappen if his tyres are already going off. And he's going to, remember, drop 20 seconds back from where he is right now. That puts him inside the sort of Gasly, Liam Lawson area of the track. Oscar Piastri now making his moves up towards the point scoring places. Has finally got in front of Lance Stroll whilst we were just watching Lando Norris, the other McLaren, now closing in on Verstappen. DRS open for Lando Norris. Down towards turn 1 they go. Lando Norris looks to the inside of the track, throws a little bit of a dummy, I think, for Max Verstappen there. Does Lando Norris decides against making the move. Lando Norris, though, 4.5 of a second quicker than Verstappen on the last lap. Is Lando Norris going to go for it down in towards turn 4? Peels to the inside of the track, has a little look at Verstappen, but decides against it. Just retire at this point, the penalty and the tyres. I mean, he's still in the point scoring places as Max Verstappen. I think you could argue that for Sergio Perez, possibly. Perez, obviously, with a 5-second penalty that he's already served, but possibly another couple of 5-second penalties coming his way. So, Sergio Perez in a pretty disastrous home Grand Prix at the moment. Here we go. Verstappen, box at box. Verstappen is deciding to give up on this one. That is going to help out Lando Norris a little bit. Max Verstappen getting a fresh set of tyres on. Getting that 20-second penalty, though. Let's see where Max Verstappen comes out in all of this. I think they're hoping that Max Verstappen is going to come out in and around Nico Hulkenberg, but maybe with a little bit of clean air. Into the pits comes Verstappen. Nobody, of course, allowed to touch the car for 20 seconds here at Red Bull. And it seems so strange to watch the Red Bull pit crew hover around the car for so long. There goes Kevin Magnussen. Nico Hülkenberg also goes past the pit box. Finally, they can actually attach themselves to the car. And it's a 24-second stop for Verstappen. Ouch. There goes Piastri, Colapinto. Bottas also makes his move. Lance Stroll decides to come into the pits, and Max Verstappen is going to come out effectively in last place. I mean, it's Lance Stroll who's in the pits behind him, and Sergio Perez in 17th spot is going to get the jump on Lance Stroll at least. So Verstappen and Perez. Now, when's the last time we saw two Red Bulls running 15th and 16th in a Grand Prix? Goodness gracious me. Verstappen 15th, Sergio Perez 16th. You don't adjust your televisions. That is the correct order for the race at the moment. That means Kevin Magnussen now running in 6th place in a Haas car. Those Toyota stickers are worth their weight in blooming gold. Goodness gracious. Hülkenberg up into 7th place as well. Best of the rest. The top 4 teams currently looking: Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, Haas. Haas are currently the 4th fastest team out on track. Have Haas ever been the 4th fastest team ever? It's absolutely bonkers. This race has turned on its head. Pierre Gasly running in 8th place. Lawson 9th. Piastri finally up into the point scoring places in 10th. He is 2.7 seconds adrift of Liam Lawson. Colapinto, now the closest driver to the point scoring places. Here's Esteban Ocon making a move on Zhou Guanyu, and I think Esteban Ocon getting that move done. Ocon up into 13th place. Goodness me. Haas dominance good ball fans. It's getting ridiculous, isn't it? Another double point scoring finish on the cards for the Haas team, and it's looking comfortable. They're 3, nearly 4 seconds ahead of Pierre Gasly. Another 3.5 seconds between Hülkenberg and Magnussen. Magnussen making it look easy out there. Unbelievable. Lewis Hamilton, box and box. That's right. Lewis Hamilton's going to box. Magnussen's going to be up into 5th place. Of course, only for now. But my goodness me, I'm beat. I can't stop smiling. This race has just been stunning. And we're only a third of the way through. Hamilton comes in, a 3.1 second stop for the Mercedes driver. Let's see where Hamilton slots back in. Pierre Gasly also pits behind the Mercedes car. So the first round of pit stops for the medium compound runners seems to be the order. Hamilton now comes out. There's Colapinto going past. I think Hamilton's going to come out just ahead of Bottas. Does. Gasly, though, is dropping down. Has come out just behind Max Verstappen, maybe. Oh, no, Zhou Guanyu's there as well. But Gasly comes out in 15th place, just ahead of Sergio Perez. Thank you, Sarah, for becoming a member of the channel. Massively appreciate that, Sarah. Welcome, welcome. Magnussen podium today. Oh, don't tempt fate like that. Lando Norris still running in the final podium scoring place. I mean, it's looking comfortable for Carlos Sainz. The only thing that this race is missing, really, is a battle for the lead. But Carlos Sainz has made it look very, very easy. It was looking like Charles Leclerc was going to close the gap to his teammate at one point, but Carlos Sainz now lapping 0.5 of a second quicker than Charles Leclerc. Leclerc now nearly 8 seconds adrift of the lead of the race. Carlos Sainz dominance, Mayball fans, at this point. Looking too comfortable. Nico Hülkenberg pits. And Kevin Magnussen up into 5th place, as we said. Hülkenberg was 6th and now comes into the pit lane and drops towards the back. Max Verstappen just coming around past Nico Hülkenberg. There's Zhou Guanyu as well. So Hülkenberg's going to come out 14th, but still ahead of Pierre Gasly where he needed to be. The Haas team covering off the Alpine. Max Verstappen now runs in 11th place. And again, when's the last time we saw Max Verstappen in 11th place 31 laps into a Grand Prix? Okay, he started there sometimes because of engine penalties and bits and pieces, but we're nearly halfway through. And at the moment, that's just popped up on the screen. Shall I show you the championship order? Goodness gracious me. Show you the championship as it stands at the moment. Ferrari gaining 44 points. Red Bull gaining 0 means that Ferrari would actually only be 12 points adrift of McLaren. That means that the championship battle in the constructors is between McLaren and Ferrari. Red Bull are nowhere even close at this point. Goodness me. Sauber point, a crazy addition. Bottas running the points right now, but yet to have pitted. Here comes Kevin Magnussen into the pits. Keep an eye on him as he's going to come out. Hopefully, still ahead of Alkenberg. Hoping the jump isn't too bad. Yeah, he's still ahead of Hulkenberg. Lovely. Carlos Sainz. No, sorry, Charles Leclerc, box. Charles Leclerc is getting the first run into the pits for the Ferrari team. So Charles Leclerc into the pits he comes. Leclerc does indeed pit. Let's see what Leclerc can do. Just going to move this. There we go. George Russell decides to pit behind Charles Leclerc to cover off the Ferrari driver. Charles Leclerc undercut from 8 seconds back. I am not holding out hope. Fastest lap of the race just goes to Lewis Hamilton in 7th place. Oscar Piastri and Liam Lawson ahead of him, yet to have pitted, though. George Russell comes out of the pits. Oh, and George Russell only just ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Now in the mix with Piastri and Lawson. Valtteri Bottas just moving out of the way of Max Verstappen, realizing that he's not really in the race with the Red Bull, is he? Verstappen back up into 9th place. Carlos Sainz on the radio. Carlos Sainz wants another lap. And Carlos Sainz, nope, has come into the pits, though. So Carlos Sainz wanting, I think, to just hold on to those tyres a little bit longer because he was doing well on them. You know, those medium compound tyres didn't really seem to be going off for Carlos Sainz. He was lapping considerably quicker than everybody else. He's going to come out of Charles Leclerc by a comfortable margin. Let's have a little look at where Charles Leclerc is. So Sainz down towards turn 1. Leclerc just coming across the start-finish line. Lando Norris still running in 3rd, also pitted in there. So Liam Lawson and Oscar Piastri yet to have pitted. Colapinto also hasn't pitted yet either, but Colapinto on the hard compound tyre. Valtteri Bottas also running on the hard compound tyre, so is Esteban Ocon. And George Russell now putting Oscar Piastri under pressure. I don't think Piastri's going to give up the position easily, though. Oh no, Piastri doesn't put up too much of a fight, I think, realising that George Russell on a fresh set of tyres and just in the faster Mercedes car, it looks like, this weekend. Getting a better exit out of the corner. And now George Russell also trying to get back past Liam Lawson, and does indeed. So Liam Lawson also doesn't put up too much of a fight, really, to George Russell in 5th spot. George Russell wondering why on earth he's been put into this traffic. Surely he could have done 1 or 2 more laps. I kind of agree with George, to be honest with you, because now he is 10.5 seconds adrift of Lando Norris. He kind of got stuck behind Piastri and Lawson for a couple of laps, got into the dirty air whilst he was trying to warm up those new hard compound tyres as well. I think Mercedes have kind of done a little bit of a disservice there to George Russell. Piastri on the radio. And Piastri wanting to get out of this situation, just struggling behind the RB of Liam Lawson now and getting more and more frustrated. Still on the medium compound tyre, of course, Oscar Piastri as well. So he's gone incredibly long on those mediums. And Lewis Hamilton is now the next car in line to try and have a go at the back of Oscar Piastri. Piastri, though, trying to have a look at Liam Lawson for himself. And Hamilton now up the inside of Oscar Piastri. Piastri, though, trying to have a go at Liam Lawson around the outside. And all three cars just have to stick to where they were. Lawson staying in 5th, Piastri 6th, Hamilton 7th. Colapinto's running in 8th place, but on the hard compound tyre, yet to have pitted. And here comes Piastri up the inside of Liam Lawson, and Liam Lawson isn't going to have much to battle with, and Piastri finally gets that move done up ahead of Liam Lawson around the up the inside, of turn 4, around the outside of turn 5. And Hamilton also gets the jump on Liam Lawson whilst he's squabbling with Piastri, and Hamilton up into 6th place. So Lawson now down into 7th. Again, Lawson on the hard compound tyre, Colapinto behind him on the hard compound tyre. Could see a lovely little battle between those two at the end of the Grand Prix. 7th and 8th place right now, but of course yet to have pitted, so will fall a considerable margin backwards, but will have the fresh medium compound tyre at the end. Lewis Hamilton did actually get onto the grass there on the left-hand side of the track as we look at it, but did manage to get past Lawson at least. Piastri next up on the list for Lewis Hamilton. And here comes Lewis Hamilton on Oscar Piastri down towards turn 1. Gets right under the rear wing of the McLaren. The McLaren of Oscar Piastri peels to the left-hand side of the track. Doesn't put up any kind of fight. And Lewis Hamilton now up into 5th place. Back behind his teammate, but 3 seconds adrift of George Russell. Charles Leclerc 8.5 seconds off Carlos Sainz. And lapping similar lap times, Carlos Sainz a 10th or so behind his teammate last time around. Lando Norris looking fairly adrift for 3rd place, And looks like it's going to be a podium for Lando Norris, but a podium that doesn't really need much fighting for, as George Russell is then 13 seconds behind. Hamilton 3 seconds behind that. And after an electric start to the Grand Prix, it does feel like it's all going to settle in for the second half, doesn't it? Doesn't feel like there's going to be much fighting anywhere towards the top. Sainz, Leclerc, Norris, Russell, Hamilton, all just too far adrift of one another to really cause any kind of headache, and all on the exact same tyre strategy. Only 1 or 2 tyres between... 1 or 2 laps between them. Oscar Piastri in 6th place, yet to pit. So Verstappen is going to be back up into sort of Lewis Hamilton territory once those guys all pit, isn't he? He's 6 seconds adrift of Lewis Hamilton right now, but Piastri, Lawson, Colapinto are going to have to move out of the way. And in fact, Colapinto moves out of the way right now. Valtteri Bottas is just being overtaken by Kevin Magnussen in the background as well. Magnussen back up into the point scoring places, as he will be again. Piastri, Lawson and Colapinto out of position because they have yet to have pitted. Everyone else running pretty much where they should be. Ocon and Zhou, also the 2 drivers outside of the... Valtteri Bottas as well, outside of the top 10, yet to have pitted after starting on the hard compound tyre. 3 drivers out of the Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso 18th, Albon 19th, and Yuki Tsunoda 20th. Both Albon and Tsunoda coming together at turn 1 on the first lap of the Grand Prix, brought out the safety car. And Fernando Alonso retiring on lap 15 of the Grand Prix. Wasn't looking like a very fun 400th Grand Prix for the Spaniard anyway, though, to be honest. Looking at Lance Stroll all the way down in 17th right now. The pace inside of the Aston Martin car just nowhere near what we expected this weekend. Those Toyota stickers added 50% in all stats. Does seem like it. Absolutely flying. As I said, 4th fastest team out on track right now. Although Verstappen is now ahead of Kevin Magnussen once more, with Verstappen having pitted, Magnussen having pitted as well. What is the gap between them? 5 seconds between Verstappen and Magnussen. And the tyre offset not quite there enough for Magnussen to really bother Verstappen later on in the Grand Prix. But again, looking like a comfortable best of the rest finish for the 2 Haas drivers, as Nico Hülkenberg then also moves back to within touching distance of his teammate, getting past Valtteri Bottas, who drops to 12th place. And watching the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz going around and around. Oh, Carlos Sainz had a big misfire out of turn 3. Can't have engine problems here, surely, in the Ferrari. I know that it is tough on the engines, this track. Obviously, it is a very high altitude circuit. The engines don't get anywhere near as much oxygen as they do in other circuits, but still, you wouldn't expect the Ferrari engine to fall apart, especially being so dominant at this point. Carlos Sainz leading 7.5 seconds to Charles Leclerc. A Ferrari 1-2 almost guaranteed at this point, as long as nothing goes wrong. Max Verstappen now getting ahead of Liam Lawson. Lawson doesn't really put up too much of a fight. Interesting that Lawson didn't put up too much of a fight there, but when Sergio Perez was behind him, whoo-wee, did he put up a fight indeed. And Oscar Piastri, then, the final driver ahead of Max Verstappen that is yet to have pitted. Here's a replay of Nico Hülkenberg getting past Valtteri Bottas. A fairly comfortable move. Obviously, the fresh hard compound tyres versus the 38-lap-old compound tyres on Valtteri Bottas's car. Not really putting too much of a fight. Max Verstappen, after that 20-second penalty that he was given, or well, 2 10-second penalties, is finally going to catch up to the back of the group he started the race with. Quite far adrift of the lead of the race, though, at this point. Piastri, though, still out there on the medium compound tyre. Oh, Colapinto having problems with the steering, going stiff and then soft on him. I've had nights like that. Colapinto running in 9th place and now struggling inside the Williams car under pressure from Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen now with DRS behind the Williams car. Of course, not really in the battle because the Williams car has yet to pit. But Magnussen not wanting to put too much tyres into this, wants to make it as easy as possible. Carlos Sainz still leading. Piastri finally, box for Oscar Piastri. So Max Verstappen isn't going to have to deal with the McLaren. Instead, is going to jump up to 6th place as Piastri is going to come into the pits at this point. Carlos Sainz then still running in the lead, 7 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. The 2 Ferraris just looking incredibly dominant here. Lando Norris jumps up into 3rd place after his squabbles with Max Verstappen picked up the Dutchman 2 10-second penalties. George Russell up into 4th after losing that position to Hamilton at the start, then gained back on his teammate and now is 3 seconds ahead of him. Max Verstappen has had that 20-second penalty, is now up into 6th place once again. Kevin Magnussen jumps up in front of Colapinto as Colapinto comes into the pits. No, Colapinto just out on track and Kevin Magnussen gets the DRS run at him. Liam Lawson, sorry, was the car that I saw coming into the pit lane there, swapping from the hard onto the medium tyre. Liam Lawson's going to go all the way to the back of the pack once again. The medium compound tyre on the car. Let's see what Liam Lawson can do there. 30 laps left to go. He's going to be on the softer, faster race tyre than the rest of the guys in front of him. That tyre offset might just be enough for him to cause some headaches for a few of the cars in front of him. Especially with the RB car looking very, very swift here this weekend. And actually, Liam Lawson has just come out behind Sergio Perez. Maybe not the driver that you wanted to see on track, considering those two have already collided once. If you managed to catch a glimpse of the right side pod of Sergio Perez's car, there is just a little hole in there created by Liam Lawson. And it feels like the Red Bull team, have they orchestrated this? Because Liam Lawson's come out exactly behind Sergio Perez. Max Verstappen getting really dark. So, are they worried about rain coming this way? The Red Bull team saying that there's nothing that's going to hit the track at the moment. Goodness me. Here comes Liam Lawson on Sergio Perez then. This is the battle that I want to see. It's for 16th place. But the Red Bull of Sergio Perez under pressure from Lawson. And Lawson makes it look easy. He's passed him before he even gets close to the corner. Liam Lawson, take a bow, son. You are ahead of Sergio Perez once again. Goodness me. Liam Lawson now then. What's the gap? 2.5 seconds to Lance Stroll ahead. I want to see what Liam Lawson can do on these medium compound tyres with that tyre offset. You know, I want to see him at least get past Stroll, maybe even Joe. Oh, definitely Joe. Ocon then is another 6 seconds ahead, so that would be a tough ask. But Liam Lawson absolutely going for it. Thank you, Soccer AM, for subscribing to the channel. Appreciate that, mate. If you could hit that subscribe button, that'd be absolutely amazing. Hit the like button as well. The like button really does help get these streams to as many people as possible. And it's completely and utterly free. Hitting that like button costs you nothing, costs you 2 seconds of time, and helps out the channel more than you would ever imagine. Oscar Piastri then, moving past Esteban Ocon up into 12th place. You're seeing a little replay of that. Unfortunately, it does feel like this last 30 laps is going to be a little bit less exciting towards the top end. Sainz, Leclerc, Norris, Russell, Hamilton, Verstappen pretty much guaranteed to finish in that order as it stands. Kevin Magnussen also looking like a pretty comfortable 7th place finishes on the cards for him. Colapinto, the only driver in the top 10. Oh no, sorry, Valtteri. I keep forgetting Valtteri Bottas. Colapinto and Valtteri Bottas yet to have pitted. Ocon hasn't pitted yet either, and neither is Zhou Guanyu, who is now under pressure from Liam Lawson. 1.5 seconds the gap to the RB. Is he a rookie anymore? I suppose we can't really call him a rookie after 5 races last season, but he's only in his 2nd race of the 2024 campaign as Liam Lawson, and again is looking very, very interesting to watch. Time for rain? Possibly. Max Verstappen, I've got no grip. Keep an eye on Max Verstappen's lap times. 121.5. To be fair, he was 0.3 adrift. Lewis Hamilton's time in 5th place. And do you think it's about to rain? The Red Bull team saying that it's unlikely on the radio to Verstappen, but it's looking a little bit darker, isn't it? Across the Mexican Grand Prix track. I think the gods have heard us say that this last 30 laps might not be the most interesting. And now, deciding, let's sprinkle a little bit of rain on this. And Oscar Piastri is now trying to get past Valtteri Bottas. Gasly does manage to get past Bottas and up into the points. Piastri then is going to have to go around the outside at turn 4. No, gets the move done before they even get to turn 4. So Gasly and Piastri pass Valtteri Bottas in as many corners. And Bottas now down into 12th place. Nico Hülkenberg has just moved past Colapinto. So Colapinto down into 9th. But again, Colapinto yet to have pitted. It does feel like Colapinto's being left for dead a little bit here. His lap times are nowhere near the lap times of the guys around him. It's going to fall back a considerable margin. 20 seconds puts him on 74, and 74 puts him around about where Zhou Guanyu is compared to the leader of the Grand Prix, Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz still 6.5 seconds ahead of Leclerc, although that lap time has started to come down a little bit. Charles Leclerc 0.3 of a second quicker than Carlos Sainz last time around. Still not within striking distance or anything like that. Here comes Oscar Piastri on Pierre Gasly for the final point scoring place. Piastri going to go up the inside. Oh, it's a box from Sergio Perez, by the way. Sergio Perez on the medium compound tyre, 23 laps completed. And it does look like it is just for fresh tyres. Sergio Perez goes from medium to fresh set of medium. Zhou Guanyu also in the pits as well. Zhou Guanyu going to come out behind the rest of the pack. Finally pits does Zhou Guanyu. That's his first stop of the race. Second stop of the race, though, for Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez now running 17th. And the final driver of the ones inside of the race still. Remember, Alonso, Albon, and Tsunoda all retired from the Grand Prix. So we're just looking for Colapinto, Bottas, and Ocon. Still haven't actually taken it. Oh, and there is a little bit of a look there in the Ferrari garage. They're just having a look at the wet weather tyres and actually moving them inside of the garage. It is looking dark out on track, but not yet any raindrops falling. It would need to be quite a heavy downpour, really, to cause a bit of an upset. Carlos Sainz will be hoping for the smoothest 26 laps of his Formula One career to another victory at Ferrari, possibly his final victory at Ferrari. 4 races left after this one for Carlos Sainz in red. Fastest lap of the race goes to Lando Norris now. Lando Norris, a 120.3. It's only a couple attempts quicker than the 2 Ferraris. Nothing for the 2 Ferraris to be worried about as of yet. Charles Leclerc was only 1,000th of a second quicker than his teammate, so that gap staying where it was. George Russell now a distant 20 seconds from Lando Norris. So Carlos Sainz leads, Leclerc second, Lando Norris third. The podium places pretty much guaranteed to be those 3. George Russell then fourth, but 20 seconds adrift of the top 3. Lewis Hamilton then in 5th place, 2.5 seconds back. Max Verstappen is not anywhere near gaining on the Mercedes cars, by the way. He's falling back from Lewis Hamilton, now nearly 10 seconds adrift in 6th place. Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hulkenberg running side by side in 7th and 8th place. 7 seconds adrift of Verstappen, though, is Kevin Magnussen. Another 4 seconds to Nico Hulkenberg. Colapinto is currently running in 9th place, but has yet to stop. So Colapinto massively out of position in terms of where he's really running. Has to do a pit stop at some point, which will cost him just over 20 seconds. Oscar Piastri then running effectively in 9th place, with Gasly effectively running in the final points scoring position. We then have Valtteri Bottas and Esteban Ocon, who haven't pitted yet. So Lance Stroll will jump up into 11th place once those 3 drivers ahead of him do pit. Liam Lawson, though, catching up to Lance Stroll and wanting to change that around. Sergio Perez finally gets in front of Zhou Guanyu and up into 16th place. Not really anything to scream and shout about, though, for the Mexican fans, as their home driver only running around in 16th spot. Rain update doesn't look like it's coming, unfortunately. Ferrari just maybe having a look at the tyres just for the sake of making it look a bit fun. I think the only thing here now that would, well, apart from rain, that would spice up the rain, would definitely cause a few little headaches for some drivers towards the middle, especially gambling on whether it's heavy enough for intermediates. But then if you look at the rest of the pack, I think a safety car would also, you know, shuffle up the pack a little bit. Apart from that, it's looking fairly done and dusted. Oscar Piastri is trying to make his way past Colapinto, and Piastri just waiting for an opportunity to get that jump. Unfortunately, wasn't able to down towards turn 4-5. So is now going to have to sit behind Colapinto for a little while. Colapinto actually trying to hold on to that position. Piastri tries to go around the outside at turn 7. Doesn't quite get there. Franco Colapinto, though, holding on to 9th place for now, at least. Valtteri Bottas going very, very slowly. A 123 dead. Ocon the same. Sergio Perez putting in some nice laps. 120.9, but out of the picture, really. Problem for Liam Lawson is that Lance Stroll does have DRS. Oh, and Colapinto pits. Colapinto finally comes into the pits. And, of course, the Sol Williams running around. And let's see where he comes out. It's going to be quite far back, Colapinto, unfortunately. And it's a bit of a slow stop as well, a 4.4 second stop. Not what they'd have wanted. Lance Stroll finally dispatches Esteban Ocon, who's still yet to have stopped in this. Liam Lawson trying his best to catch up to the back of Lance Stroll, but Esteban Ocon causing them issues. George Russell on the radio. And it's because Hamilton has caught up to the back of George Russell. So George Russell just being told over the radio, we are free to race. Free to race indeed down at Mercedes. Maybe that's where our safety car comes from. The two Mercedes cars have collided before. And Hamilton has been pretty frustrated in recent weekends with how things just seem to be falling in George Russell's favour more often than not. And Carlos Sainz saying on the radio, in my opinion, we're pushing too hard. I mean, he does have a 6-second lead, but of course wants to keep that 6-second lead. And Charles Leclerc maybe just pushing the team to go a little bit quicker. So they're all going to catch as well. You look at where Carlos Sainz is. Carlos Sainz is catching the back of Esteban Ocon. Esteban Ocon finally pits. Although Liam Lawson already got the jump on him. But yeah, you can see Carlos Sainz is going to catch up to the back of Lawson, Stroll, Bottas very, very soon. Charles Leclerc has just had to get past Colapinto. So they are starting to get towards the traffic now, the Ferrari cars. And I think that's why Carlos Sainz is saying, look, we're going to have to slow down a little bit here. Charles Leclerc's pushing me way too hard, considering I've got a 6-second lead. Carlos Sainz, 6.5 to Charles Leclerc, another 4 seconds to Lando Norris, who is just also trying to make his way through some of the back markers. Lando Norris catching the back of Colapinto. Valtteri Bottas tyre whisperer. I think he's going for the zero stop strategy is Valtteri Bottas. He's running in 11th. But everybody ahead of him has pitted, so it is not a points scoring 11th, when somebody ahead of him pits or anything like that. Magnussen and Hulkenberg looking very comfortable in 7th and 8th. Piastri, 6 seconds adrift in 9th. So big chunk of time required for Piastri to catch up to the back of the two Hasses. And Gasly actually going a little bit slower. Valtteri Bottas, has he finally pitted? He has. Valtteri Bottas has pitted. Just saw Lance Stroll jump up in the order. Lance Stroll, though, under pressure from Liam Lawson. Lance Stroll under pressure from Lance Stroll. Liam Lawson putting Lance Stroll under pressure. Colapinto has come out behind Liam Lawson, but 10 seconds adrift of Liam Lawson. Mercs are fighting. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton's having a little look. He's got the DRS, but he's not been within touching distance, really, of George Russell. So I haven't mentioned it in too much detail as of yet, because not actually getting underneath the rear wing of Russell as they go down towards turn 1 or anything like that. He's just having a little look at George Russell, his teammate, without ever really causing his teammate a proper issue. But we do know that that will be a fight incoming. Lewis Hamilton down towards turn 4, closes the gap even more so. I feel like maybe next lap will be the first time Lewis Hamilton really has a lunge at George Russell. He's within half a second of his teammate now. Verstappen, though, 12.5 seconds adrift of both of the Mercedes cars in 6th spot. And a race to nothing, really, for Max Verstappen in 6th. Liam Lawson closing into the back of Lance Stroll. Colapinto has just gone fastest of any man out on track. A 120 dead from Colapinto. And as Colapinto got a little bit of life left in him, obviously he's going to have a much fresher set of tyres than anybody anywhere close to him. He's only done 3 laps on those medium tyres. Is there a point scoring possibility for Colapinto in this? It's tough. Going to be really tough for Colapinto. If he's going to get anywhere near the points, going to have to keep being that second quicker than the cars in front of him and get those moves done swiftly. Going to be a big ask for a very young driver in the Williams car. Of course, only came in after the Dutch Grand Prix. Logan Sargent replaced with Colapinto. Yeah, Valtteri Bottas 50 laps on that set of hard compound tires. They were a scrub set, slightly scrub set from practice, so they do last a little bit longer when you've kind of put one heat cycle through them. But even still, absolutely insane from Valtteri Bottas. Is running in 14th as well, by the way, but is 13.8 seconds behind Colapinto. So unlikely to cause the Argentine any kind of problems anytime soon. Most likely with a safety car. Safety car is not out of the question with the two Mercedes cars having a little fight. Everybody else, there's not really anyone fighting for anything. Liam Lawson, has he made a mistake somewhere? He was within touching distance of Lance Stroll. He's now 2.5 seconds adrift of Lance Stroll. Is Liam Lawson? Oh, it's because he's had to wait for Carlos Sainz to come past and let the traffic. Oof. Ouch. There's Colapinto running in 11th place at the moment. Gareth is a very angry man. Answer me or I'm leaving. Seems very threatening. Do you think Ferrari would switch Sainz and Leclerc on the last lap? It would be very reminiscent of that kind of Schumacher Barrichello, where Barrichello was by far and away the faster driver for the entire Grand Prix, and then he like stamped on the brakes literally meters from the line. So if it's going to be that, isn't it? Charles Leclerc is still pushing, though. That gap has closed from 6 seconds to 5 seconds. So not impossible that Charles Leclerc might catch up to the back of Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz was on the radio earlier complaining, saying we're pushing it too hard, we're doing too much, but they're still absolutely going for it down at Ferrari, and Charles Leclerc not giving up this victory just yet. 18 laps left to go, 5 seconds the gap. Lewis Hamilton has a little look at Russell. The first time that Lewis Hamilton's really come off the racing line to have a proper look at George Russell. Was a little bit slower than George Russell actually on lap 51 and 52, but back at it once more. Down towards turn 4 come the two Mercedes cars. Nothing giving this time around. Hamilton's just not really putting in like a proper lunge on Russell or anything like that. There's nothing quite there as of yet. I am going to start opening up questions on the community tab. So after the race, I'll be interviewing CF Racing, the Ferrari fan himself. I wanted to get him on after the 1-2 in Austin. Another 1-2 for him to be celebrating this time around in Mexico. Looks to be on the way. If you want to get in your questions for CF Racing and myself post-race, make sure you head over to the community tab on the channel now and get your questions in. You can click that link and submit a question for us to go through. So it's going to be a spicy post-race talk with the Ferrari fan. And Carlos Sainz looking like he's going to take another Ferrari victory this season. Lando Norris a comfortable third after squabbling with Max Verstappen at the beginning. George Russell now 25 seconds adrift. Lewis Hamilton has another little peek at George Russell, but again, nothing doing. Lewis Hamilton's tyres are slightly older than George Russell's, but not enough for there to be a huge margin between the two in terms of pace. George Russell just struggling, and Lewis Hamilton has caught up to the back of his teammate. Hasn't yet actually been able to have a go at his teammate. Hamilton right underneath the rear wing of his teammate through turn 5, but nothing doing, and it's going to be another lap before we see any kind of move from Lewis Hamilton. Max Verstappen still 12 seconds adrift of this battle. Another 8 seconds to Magnussen. Nearly 8 seconds to Hülkenberg. Oscar Piastri is finally closing in on the back of the Haas, though. Piastri ruining Haas's 7th, 8th place. Might become a 7th, 9th place sometime soon. Oscar Piastri on 10-lap fresher hard compound tyres than Nico Hülkenberg. Yeah, Gasly still running in the final point scoring place. And that looks like it is going to be there for him because Liam Lawson hasn't been able to get past Lance Stroll in all of this. And Liam Lawson now still 1.3 seconds adrift of Lance Stroll. So it looks like Gasly is going to get that final point scoring position. Colapinto, after putting in that really, really fast lap, though, is still gaining on the back of Lawson and Stroll. George Russell, though, just getting the better in terms of the Mercedes drag race. Lewis Hamilton, even with the DRS, just can't seem to get anywhere close to Russell through turn one, and frustratingly stuck behind his teammate. Continues to pour on the pressure. Here comes Oscar Piastri on Nico Hülkenberg up the inside, and does indeed steal 8th place from Nico Hülkenberg. And Hülkenberg dropping down to 9. Still a couple of points going in Hülkenberg's pocket would be sublime for him. We look at how this will affect the championship, by the way. It does mean that Verstappen still leads the Drivers' Championship by a considerable margin. Charles Leclerc closes into Lando Norris by 3 points. Carlos Sainz actually gets to within 11 points of Oscar Piastri as it stands. Hamilton would lead George Russell still, but that gap swallows down to 8 points. Hülkenberg would be up into the 30s, by the way. A couple of points for him. 31 points in total this season. Magnussen would get the jump on Albon and jump up into 13th place on 14 points. 6 points. A huge swing for Kevin Magnussen and the Haas team. That also then puts them 10 points ahead of RB. Absolutely stunning race for the Haas team. It'd also see Ferrari jump up into 2nd place in the Constructors' Championship and be within touch and distance of McLaren going into the last 4 races of the season. If I was a race engineer, which driver would I want to work with? Piastri, right? Piastri just seems like the easiest driver to work with by a considerable margin. He's fairly calm inside the car. Like, even when he was getting a little bit frustrated earlier on, it was like only because he was in quite a lot of traffic and was fairly reasonably annoyed. Carlos Sainz has elongated that lead back to 6.5 seconds. So Charles Leclerc been put backwards by the Spaniard. Lando Norris running 3rd still. Lando Norris actually closing in a little bit to Charles Leclerc now. 2.5 seconds between Norris and Leclerc as they're all trying to make their way through the traffic. George Russell still under pressure from Lewis Hamilton. Still DRS with Lewis Hamilton as they go down towards turn 1 right now. But still just can only get to within 0.3 of his teammate and then just has to give up. Zhou Guanyu ahead of them. He's going to have to move out of the way of the 2 Mercedes cars. Kevin Magnussen keeping an eye on Oscar Piastri's lap times. Magnussen are 120.7, Piastri are 120.4. Don't think Piastri's going to have quite enough time to get up into 7th place. He does. It's going to be very, very close indeed. Colapinto now a 2nd behind Lawson and within DRS range of Liam Lawson. So we are going to see that little battle that I was hoping for. Going to see Colapinto versus Lawson. Unfortunately, it's down in 12th place rather than in the point scoring places, but still a little battle that I'm interested to see. How can Liam Lawson get on with Colapinto behind him in the Williams? Ooh, and now the back markers are done. Lando Norris actually got way better run behind those back markers. Charles Leclerc lost a lot of time behind Colapinto, Lawson and Stroll, whereas Norris seemed to be able to get through them swiftly. Now Lando Norris is only a 2nd off Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc's got to feel a little bit hard done by there, to be honest. Because he is now going to be in a proper battle. Charles Leclerc being told on the radio to give it a little bit of a hurry up. Yeah, I didn't realize how much Lando Norris was catching. Charles Leclerc lost so much time in that traffic. Lando Norris now also through that traffic, but didn't seem to lose anywhere near as much time as Charles Leclerc did. And is now in 3rd place still, but only 1 second adrift. Whereas Leclerc was 5 seconds behind Sainz, now 7.5 seconds behind Sainz. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton just still fighting in the 2 Mercedes cars, but Hamilton frustratingly just doesn't have anything that he can really give it. Has the DRS open, going all the way down the straight behind George Russell. Gets to within a lunging-ish distance if they were on fresh tyres, but not enough for Lewis Hamilton to be able to actually go for the move. 12 laps left to go. The Ferrari garage looking incredibly happy. Also now slightly nervous as Lando Norris is only a second behind Leclerc, but they are now both in clean air. And it does feel like the Ferrari does have the better of the pace, so I'd imagine Charles Leclerc is going to be able to escape from Lando Norris. But maybe Lando Norris is just turning up the afterburners, and Lando Norris was actually 0.3 of a second quicker than Leclerc last time around. Leclerc now looking under pressure. Is Lewis Hamilton again down towards turn 4. Tries to have a go around the outside of turn 5. Has Lewis Hamilton finally been able to do it? He's alongside his teammate. And not this time. Hamilton finally actually looks to be within touching distance of his teammate as they go into turn 4-5. But Russell is able to position his car well enough and get that done. Mercedes cars, though, ever closer still. Lewis Hamilton closing in on Russell once more. This battle is just going to continue. Lewis Hamilton does seem to have like the better pace as such. Was able to catch George Russell swiftly. But just not been able to get past him. And as we say in Formula 1, it's one thing catching someone, it's another thing passing them. And Lewis Hamilton showing that for certain at the moment. Looking at this Lewis Hamilton run. Lewis Hamilton probably looking at the two Ferraris at the front of the grid and being like, why am I not at Ferrari this season? It's just absolutely frustrating to watch him at Mercedes at the moment, Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton fans probably will not be there. We look at the race pace graph. There's not really too much going on, to be honest with you. It's the reason I haven't popped it up is nobody's really closing in on anybody. Lando Norris closing in on Leclerc, but has remained... Oh, no, he has got into within DRS range now. Fastest lap to Lando Norris because he's in that DRS of Charles Leclerc now. And Lando Norris, that was the kind of trigger point that I was waiting for. I thought that Leclerc would be able to escape because Lando Norris didn't get to within DRS range, but now he is. That's the trigger for Lando Norris to actually be in contention for second place here with Charles Leclerc. And it's gone from a comfortable second place finish to Charles Leclerc to suddenly Lando Norris being right on the rear wing of the Scuderia. Lewis Hamilton, though, has dropped out of DRS range of his teammate in 5th place. Let's keep an eye now on Lando Norris and the battle. The second place in this one. Carlos Sainz was complaining on the radio that he wanted Charles Leclerc to slow down. Don't think he'd be complaining anymore as Lando Norris is now putting Charles Leclerc under pressure, letting Carlos Sainz escape, but also possibly costing Ferrari their 1-2. Lando Norris closing in. Hamilton has closed in once more. This is what I mean. Hamilton, every single time he does fall backwards, he gains enough to be within the DRS again, but can't quite... Oh, and Charles Leclerc, it's a mistake. It's a mistake from Charles Leclerc. He's managed to catch the car without going into the barriers. But Lando Norris up into second place. And it was at that final corner, around 17, Charles Leclerc came and he just lost the rear end of the Ferrari car. I think he knew that he needed an absolutely stunning exit to that final corner. And he tried his best to push the car just that little bit too much. Almost lost it into the barriers to Charles Leclerc. Really good catch from Charles Leclerc, considering. Let's have a look. Round 16 he comes, 17. Oh, and just a slide. The rear end of the car. I think he just gets on the throttle that little bit too early. He knows he's got to get onto the throttle as quickly as possible. Charles Leclerc just gets on there a little bit too early. Loses the rear end of the car. Almost into the barriers. He's within touching distance. The dust outside of the track there. Kicked up by the Ferrari. He has nearly clipped the wall to Charles Leclerc. He's lucky to still be in the race. A great catch considering the circumstances. But Lando Norris handed second place now. And 7.8 seconds the gap to Carlos Sainz. 8 laps left to go. It'd be an absolute triumph if Lando Norris can get anywhere near Carlos Sainz. He's putting in fastest laps, but they're not, 2 seconds faster than Carlos Sainz at this point in the Grand Prix. And Charles Leclerc then, 3 seconds to go. Charles Leclerc does have a pit stop to Russell. Does Charles Leclerc come in, sacrifice second, but maybe go for that fastest lap point? Lando Norris currently has it. As we were just talking about, there is a battle now between there's a battle between Ferrari and McLaren, maybe for the constructors' standings. Will Ferrari pit Charles Leclerc for the fastest lap? It won't be for another couple of laps or so. Lando Norris putting in qualifying laps now. Oh, Lando Norris is there now. Yeah, he's done and dusted. But I don't think he's going to catch up to Carlos Sainz. His guaranteed second spot is Lando Norris. Charles Leclerc in third. But as you can see, Charles Leclerc does have a 29-second gap to George Russell. So it's a comfortable pit stop and a bit to George Russell. So could easily nab that fastest lap point. Could Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton still behind George Russell, by the way. And still just looking at the rear wing of his teammate. With 7 laps left to go. Charles Leclerc on the radio just says, think about fastest lap. Wants a fresh set of tyres on that car, does Charles Leclerc. If you haven't hit the like button, that'd be absolutely amazing. 650 likes is what we managed on the Austin Grand Prix weekend. More than enough guys in the chat to be able to hit up to 650 likes. If we could hit that, that would be absolutely astonishing. Helps out the channel massively. And if you are new here and you've enjoyed, we are live every single race weekend. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to join us every single time around. If you want to support the channel even a little bit more, you can become a member or join the Patreon linked in the description below. Here we go then. Lewis Hamilton once again looks at George Russell, tries to go around the outside, and George Russell closes the gap. I think it is just going to be this for the rest of the race for Lewis Hamilton. Every single lap, he has a go at his teammate. Nothing coming. Down towards turn 4. Has a look. Tries to go around the outside. Can't do it. Up the inside of turn 5, maybe. No. The door closed by George Russell once more. And again, Lewis Hamilton has to settle for staying in 5th. One more lap. Verstappen had a 20-second penalty indeed. He's all the way down there now, Max Verstappen, in 6th spot. And he's kind of just given up, hasn't he, Max Verstappen? He knew that he was too far adrift of the Mercedes cars to really cause any issues. So Verstappen just deciding that 6th place will be 6th place. And Kevin Magnussen running in 7th, Piastri 8th, Hülkenberg 9th, and Gasly running in the final point scoring place. Colapinto is making a move on Liam Lawson, and Colapinto gets the move done. Up in front of Liam Lawson, down in towards turn 1, and Colapinto now rushing to try and get in front of Lance Stroll. An 11th place finish from Colapinto would be pretty impressive from 16th. Here comes Lewis Hamilton. Is he finally going to do it? Down towards turn 1. Is Lewis Hamilton around the outside, and he's done it. Hamilton finally gets that position on George Russell. It seemed like an age that he was there. Lewis Hamilton just stuck behind his teammate for forever. I was looking at Liam Lawson's lap times and seeing if he could gain on Lance Stroll again, but it looks like Lawson is done and dusted in all of this. A good move from Franco Colapinto around the outside of turn 1. Oh! I said it was a good move until he actually collided with Liam Lawson's front wing. I think Lawson is Lawson to fault for that one. Colapinto is kind of alongside. Colapinto does go off the racetrack to gain that position. Ew, I need to have a little look at both of those onboards to know. Colapinto, though, smashes into Liam Lawson, and Lawson loses that front wing end plate, and now is coming into the pits. Are they going to put a fresh front wing on, or is it just going to be a retirement? No, looks like a fresh front wing. for Liam Lawson. Some soft compound tyres going onto his car as well. And Lawson saying on the radio, had nowhere to go. Is Liam Lawson now going to steal fastest lap of the race? We were talking about Charles Leclerc doing it in the Ferrari. Ferrari still haven't pitted Charles Leclerc. He's now 5 seconds adrift of Lando Norris. I think it was a little bit clumsy between the two of them. Colapinto was on the inside at turn 2. I don't think that either of them will pick up a penalty or anything like that, but a bit clumsy from the two of them. Colapinto now in 12th place. But Colapinto lost quite a bit of time behind Liam Lawson. Obviously, lost quite a bit of time in that battle as well. Not sure he's going to be able to get up into 11th. And even if he did, there's no points available for 11th in this one. Who has the fastest lap right now? Lando Norris currently has the fastest lap of the Grand Prix with 4 laps left to go. That's why we're looking at Charles Leclerc. Leclerc 30 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Could easily nab that fastest lap point for the Ferrari team. We'll see if Liam Lawson nabs it in 17th place. Doing a Daniel Ricciardo at the back of the pack there. Daniel Ricciardo did it in Singapore. Liam Lawson now doing the same. Shame for Liam Lawson, though. Was running pretty well. Annoying that he couldn't get past Lance Stroll because kind of lost a lot of time when the front runners were coming past him. Sergio Perez saying, oh. Sergio Perez. Not a fan of Liam Lawson by the sounds of things on the radio. Liam Lawson coming to blows with Colapinto, and Sergio Perez saying that he's watching it on the screen and calls Liam Lawson an idiot as well. So clearly Liam Lawson being the reserve driver at Red Bull and working very closely with Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen hasn't become friends with Sergio Perez in that time. Carlos Sainz, family and friends looking on in the garage, hopeful of a victory. He's made it look easy as Carlos Sainz lost the place to Max Verstappen at the beginning of the Grand Prix. But then after the safety car restart, retook that position from Max Verstappen pretty swiftly. And then, apart from the couple of radio messages asking why Charles Leclerc is going so quickly, has kind of just disappeared into the distance. Here comes Liam Lawson. That is the fastest lap for Liam Lawson. Charles Leclerc, though, coming for it now. Can Charles Leclerc nab it from Liam Lawson? Liam Lawson puts in a 1:19.5. Charles Leclerc, box, fastest lap, he is told over the radio. Oh. And Charles Leclerc doesn't. Oh, no, sorry, that's Carlos Sainz. So confused then. I was like, what? It's like, he's missed the pit entry. No, that's Carlos Sainz at the lead of the Grand Prix. Here comes Charles Leclerc into the pits. And Charles Leclerc, with 2 laps left to go, is going to try and take the fastest lap on the final lap of the Grand Prix. Smooth pit stop for Charles Leclerc. Soft compound tyres on as you would expect. And Charles Leclerc should comfortably take that fastest lap from Liam Lawson. He's got a lot of track to run into. As Charles Leclerc is going to come out just behind Valtteri Bottas. A good chunk of time behind Colapinto, who's the next back marker along. And, oh, thank you for subscribing, Bob, Richard. Appreciate that, lads. Popping up on the screen. And Sisters of Movies. Appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Sergio Perez has come into the... And Sergio Perez has come into the pits to try and nab fastest lap. Wow, okay. So the Red Bull team deciding to try and cost the fastest lap point. Everyone loves the fastest lap point. They're disappearing, of course, in 2025. No longer will we have fastest lap points, but everybody wants the fastest lap point here in Mexico. Lawson had a go. Sergio Perez now putting a fresh set of softs on. Charles Leclerc's got a set of soft compound tyres on as well. They're going for it. Carlos Sainz way out in front on the final lap of the Grand Prix. He's just coming around turn 5, turn 6, turn 7. Carlos Sainz is almost, in fact, is going to get the jump on Nico Hülkenberg. So Hülkenberg lapped in 9th place. Has made it look pretty easy. Esteban Ocon has just made a move on Valtteri Bottas for 13th. But Carlos Sainz is the man we need to be watching right now. Coming around turn 12, he put in an absolutely astonishing pole position lap yesterday, and now looks to be taking a comfortable victory. Will it be his final victory for the Scuderia? 4 races left to go in red, but he'll celebrate tonight. Carlos Sainz takes the victory here in Mexico for Ferrari. Lando Norris comes home in 2nd spot to a distant Charles Leclerc after the pit stop. Charles Leclerc 30 seconds adrift of Lando Norris. Charles Leclerc, though, sets the fastest first sector of anybody and the fastest second sector of anybody. So the fastest lap point does look to be going to the Monegasque, who's also going to be taking the final podium place. Hülkenberg and Gasly have come home in 9th and 10th. Stroll and Colapinto 11th and 12th. There is Charles Leclerc with the fastest lap of the race, a 1:18.3. Pick that one out. Goodness gracious. There's Carlos Sainz Sr. celebrating, of course, Carlos Sainz Jr. stepping up onto the top step of the podium once again in Ferrari colours. The smoothest operator once again at the top of the timing sheets. Lewis Hamilton comes home in 4th place. George Russell 5th. Verstappen a distant 6th place. Kevin Magnussen, a 7th place finish in the Haas. Absolutely brilliant from him. Piastri comes across the line 8th. Hülkenberg 9th. Gasly 10th. And Perez can't even steal fastest lap. It's a 19.2 from Sergio Perez. Absolutely woeful in comparison to the 18.3 from Charles Leclerc. Goodness me. What a day for Red Bull. And what a day for Carlos Sainz in all of this. A winner once again with Ferrari. Thank you guys so much for watching. Massively appreciate you coming along and sticking with us. Let's have a look at what that does to the championship then. Max Verstappen still leads 362 points at the top of it. It is closed a touch though. Lando Norris 18 points, gains 10 on his title rival, but it's looking like it's a little bit too much to do. Oops, I put on 2 chat boxes. We've got Charles Leclerc in 3rd place now. Distant 3rd place from Oscar Piastri. I was hoping for that to be a battle between Leclerc and Piastri, but that doesn't look like it's going to materialise, with Piastri only picking up 4 points. Carlos Sainz with 25 moves to within 11 of Piastri, though. Hamilton actually gains a couple of points on Russell, but still 6th and 7th. Sergio Perez, no points scored, keeps him 8th. Nico Hülkenberg moves up to 31 points. Kevin Magnussen, the big mover, though, up 2 positions into 13th place with 14 points on the board. And then in terms of the constructor standings, McLaren still lead it. They gain 22 points, putting them on 566. Ferrari jump Red Bull, though. Red Bull only 8 points on the weekend. Ferrari 41. 537 points for Ferrari. And now the battle for the constructors. 29 points the gap between McLaren and Ferrari. Mercedes pick up 22 points, but that doesn't really affect them in any way. Haas are the big movers once again. 8 points for the Haas team. Puts them 10 ahead of RB. They jump up even further into 6th place. Very, very impressive from them. Alpine gain 1 point on Williams, and they close in to within 3 points of the Williams team. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe. I keep hitting the wrong button. I'm just going to delete that. Massively appreciate all of the support on the channel over the course of this season. It's been absolutely stunning. 4 races still to come. We will be back live again next weekend for the Brazilian Grand Prix weekend. We're going to be live for sprint qualifying, the sprint, the qualifying itself, and the Grand Prix. So make sure you subscribe to the channel for that. I'm going to disappear now. Of course, if you want to get your post-race reaction questions into me and CF Racing, who will be joining me on the post-race stream. Make sure you get your questions over on the community tab, and I'll release that as soon as possible. Thank you guys once more, and I will see you next week.